Welcome to Balance of Power. Wow, today's our first podcast. I'm so excited. We're here at the PVA Studios in Harlem, New York. To my right, I have Maxine.
Hello.
And to my left, I have Chris.
Hello.
So soon you'll know who these two people are, these lovely people are. We're going to be discussing some political topics that are near and dear to us, and we're hoping that people out there listening are going to tune in and send us their feedback, and just kind of be patient with us. This is our first try. This is our first time meeting together. Obviously, Maxine and I know each other. Chris, I don't know, but we had a really, really great conversation and we hit it off. And I was like, man, I really need you on this podcast. So I'm really, really excited to have both of these people on the podcast with me. It's like my first time at this. One interesting thing, this is like my first time even speaking I've been interviewed before. I work in the music business, but this is very different for me to be like stepping up front and speaking, but I just felt like with the midterm elections, like I had to figure out some way somehow to get involved, some way to just give a voice, especially give a platform for people who need to understand what's affecting them in the community. It's so important. Whether you're a conservative, whether you're liberal, there needs to be somewhere you can listen and get some sound advice, or just break down some topics that you just probably not following. We're going to do our best to try to do that for you. We're going to talk about things that, we are very, very passionate about. And, we're going to be a voice for a lot of you out there. And hopefully we'll have a lot of people come in here and we'll interview some of these candidates that are running for the office. We'll go from there. So again, I guess I should introduce myself as far as what I do. I'm a publicist turned manager. I've worked with a lot of different talent. I worked with a lot of different brands. You'll hear about my work some in our future podcast. I'm not going to bore you now, but one of the things about me is that I'm a political science major. I graduated college with a degree in international studies, a double degree in poli-sci and international studies, and I literally, outside of doing my internship at the United Nations, that was the last time that I did anything specifically that was really heavily political, outside of what I was just talking to you guys earlier about, which is being a communications director for a city council hopeful in Harlem. And that didn't go over well. We actually lost, but we lost our primary. But, I always wanted, I always follow, I'm a heavy MSNBC watcher. I'm a heavy CNN watcher. Politico, I read articles there. So obviously you can tell I'm a liberal. And, what's happening now with our Trump presidency and with, just the polarizing of, the Democrats versus the Republicans, I just felt like there needed to be a space where we can talk together. And on this podcast, you'll see that there's different opinions. I'll let my two co-hosts explain who and what they've come from and what their political views are, and you can just get to know us and listen to us. We're gonna make some mistakes. We're gonna be we might get a little heated with some of these topics, but one thing is we're gonna be very honest and we're going to do our best to give you the truth. So with all that said, I'm going to pass it to Maxine so she can give us a little bit of insight on her.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. So my name is Maxine Outerbridge. I am a 30-year-old biracial Black and Hispanic single mother. I have one child of whom has special needs. I am a survivor of domestic violence. I'm a CPA. I currently work in financial services, and I'm a mental health advocate. I now speak out publicly, having been someone who does suffer with anxiety and has been through depression. I speak out publicly about mental health and just in general trying to help people personally develop and self-help. From a political standpoint, I got very involved in Hillary Clinton's campaign. I was a surrogate for her during her presidential campaign. Surrogacy does not mean that I was paid for or worked for the campaign, nor was I involved in election strategy, but I was very involved in the New York State and New York City activities, in the sense that I would speak on behalf of the candidate. I would do my own events, particularly trying to target women, people of color, and millennials. I've introduced the candidate one time, and just been at a lot of her events and things like that. So from a political standpoint, that's how I was involved. I consider myself to be a moderate liberal. Fiscally, from a fiscal responsibility standpoint, I feel more conservative, but when it comes to social issues, I am as left as it gets. So human rights, gay rights, trans rights, women's rights, climate change, any of that kind of stuff, I'm really, really left. So just to give you a little bit of background, but I think from my perspective, just to know, I have been on pretty much from one end to the other end of the spectrum from a socio-economic standpoint. I was a teen mom. I was once on welfare. I was a struggling parent, and I've been able to get myself, through college, multiple degrees, have a CPA, and now I'm on the side where I make a six-figure income. So I think that's helpful for you guys to know what I've been through and my perspective, my background. So I'm excited to be here and to share my point of view and to have a really healthy discussion. So thank you. Pass it over to Chris.
All right.
Chris.
My name is Christopher Wright, 35-year-old conservative here out of Brooklyn, New York. A little bit of background about me when it comes to politics. I've been a lifelong, but a long-time Democrat. I worked on the Obama campaign in 2008. Went door-to-door for him, got over 500 votes for him. Always came from a very leftist family as well. I think what got me looking for the first time over at conservatism was after 4 years of the Obama presidency. I wasn't fully impressed with what I saw out of the candidate out of the president at the time. So I started looking towards the conservative side, but when they threw Mitt Romney at me, I was like, there's no way I'm going to switch over with this guy. So I went and voted Obama twice, and after 8 years of Obama, I was really looking at the right side, and who got me over there initially was a man I have a lot of respect for, Dr. Ben Carson. So I grew up with him as a young man, and I grew up with him personally. My dad met him 3 times. He's a 7-day Adventist like Dr. Ben Carson. So as time went by, when I got older as a child, my dad gave me the book his biography, Gifted Hands. So after reading Gifted Hands, it was an amazing book. My dad was showing me as a young black man, you don't have to be a rapper or an athlete or an actor and be successful in this country. So it was the first book other than the comic book I read, and I was very interested. And so when he ran in 2016, I had no questions asked. I didn't think about it. I didn't have to hesitate. He could have ran for any party out there. He ran for the Green Party. I would have supported Dr. Ben Carson. So I supported him, and unfortunately, the mainstream media, as I refer to them, the lamestream media, kind of lied about the man and destroyed his chances to become president. And when they did that, I was pretty upset. So along came Donald J. Trump, and everybody out there who knows Donald J. Trump and what he does to the media, he just annihilates them. And when he annihilated him, I was like, whoa, okay, all right. Well, Trump, what are you about, man? So I started doing research on him. I started watching his rally speeches, started going on YouTube, looking at his speeches in the past, all the way back to the 80s. And what a lot of he had to say was very impressive. And I said, okay, a lot of his policies that he's saying, I personally agree with as well. So if he's telling the truth, and this is not like a publicity stunt or just something to put his name out there, he's got my vote. And that's where it all started for me with my path with conservatism.
Okay. That's awesome. All right. Well, let's hope we can bring you back to the liberal side. Since it's only been 2 years, so that's all I thought while he was talking. I was like, okay, so it's only been 2 years, so we still might get him in the next year for 2020.
Oh man, must be hellfire dropping down or something for that to happen. Well, listen, I'm open for debate.
Okay, cool. So during this podcast, I should also mention I'm moderately liberal, Democrat. I don't know. I honestly, it's case by case with me. I want to say I'm fiscally conservative, but then on certain times when I hear the Green New Deal, I'm like, wait, I don't know, So it's like, for me, it's really a case by case situation. And one thing I'm going to say is, for me, coming from, my dad is African. He's from the West Africa, the Ivory Coast, and my mom is Haitian and German. And I grew up kind of in this melting pot. Everybody in my family is either married to an Italian person, an Asian person, or Haitian. We're just so mixed that for us, all of us kind of had this different. We all have different beliefs, and we all live together, and it's like, it's beautiful, so I can get along with everybody, and I feel like America can do the same. I just feel like this is why this podcast, I think, is so important, is we need to show America, like, listen, you can have an opposite opinion from someone and still talk to them. So which also brings me to my first topic. I wanted to ask you guys, what do you guys think about the country? Do you feel like the country is too polarized? Do you feel like we can come together, or are we like in 2020 screwed? That's all I'm thinking about. I'm always going to bring up 2020 because that's what our what we're here to do, yes, Maxine. Yes. We have a specific goal.
I honestly, personally, I think we have a opportunity to do that, and the way we do that is what we're doing. Stuff like this we're doing right now.
Okay.
Right now, like I said, back to the media again. The media is a big problem. They are dividing us.
Okay. Why do you think the media is dividing? Because you said that before, and I want to know what you think the media is like. What do they get out of dividing us?
What they get out of dividing us is, of course, ratings, of course, because division, drama, that's all, what's going on, But I also think that, a lot of media is left-leaning. You got Fox News, which leans more, of course, to the right, of course, but everybody else.
It kind of leans towards like it leans towards Mars. Like, it doesn't even lean towards, like, I don't even think they're like like they're past being like Republicans. They're like in another world, like another galaxy.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry and MSNBC might be like overly liberal, but some of the stuff I hear at Fox, I'm just like, dude, you know what they're asking? They're telling people to hide their cows, their beef, because if we have a vegan president like Cory Booker in 2020, he's coming after their cows. Like, who freaking thinks people are going to come and take their meat?
You can blame Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for that. That's nothing to do. She's the one talking about cows passing gas. It should be banned or something crazy. So
right. Well, it's just simplified. Just if everybody eats vegan once a week, just once, like maybe a vegetarian salad, that will help the climate. That's all she's saying. She's not saying to change, to like stop eating, because listen, this country loves a burger, so we're not, what I mean? We're never going to like ban, cows, but can we try to help the climate? Can we like at least attempt to?
No, I agree with that. And the reason why I brought up the whole thing with Fox though is,
sorry, went in tangent.
No, it's fine. Is even though they lean right, obviously they lean right. We all know that. There's times where they bash Trump. And if you watch them, like, no, you got to see it, because you got to say. Let me tell you about Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump, he has his Trump supporters.
Okay,
but the Rhino Republicans do not like Donald Trump. I've been in a lot of events here in New York City, and a lot of these events are ran by, I call Rhinos, which is people out there listening. They're just old school, conservative.
Like, who's an example?
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah. And who else? Would Bush be a Rhino?
Bush is a Rhino. The old Bush family's a Rhino.
Okay, gotcha.
A whole bunch of Rhinos. That's the big reason why it's an uphill battle.
Mitch supports Trump.
He does now. He does now. But when Trump just became president, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, they were all like, no, we didn't want nothing to do with this dude, because he's not a true Republican. He doesn't represent us. And they were fighting him just as much as the left was. So some people, the Rhinos on the right were against him, the left was against him, and the media was against him. Okay. And so Trump had an uphill battle when he became president. He's doing such a good job, in my opinion, now, that even those Rhinos are starting to say, okay, this guy is making us party look good, so we're down with him now. And they're coming along. But the media, if you look at the left media, the MSNBCs, the CNNs, those guys, they doesn't matter what Trump does, they never give the man credit. And it's like, the way you're supposed to be a reporter, you're supposed to be the news, you're not supposed to be biased. And we all know there's a little bias everywhere, but still, when a man does good, give the man credit. And you can bash him when he does stuff you don't agree with, but when he does good, you got to give him credit, because that prevents people from wanting to go cut the guy's head off. Because if you just bash him, people that watch only your station, they're going to think this guy's Hitler. and then when they see a Trump supporter, or when they see him, they're going to come after him. And that is a problem.
I have to kind of agree with Chris in the sense that I do feel like media is too polarized. So when you ask us, what are we going to do? Where are we at? How do you feel about 2020? I do feel concerned because even I sometimes I only watch MSNBC. I don't even watch CNN.
Me too.
And I do not watch Fox at all. And sometimes, no, honestly. And
you don't watch Fox. You said you don't watch Fox.
No, I brought up Fox, for example. I don't watch Fox.
Lately, sometimes I get frustrated with what I see on MSNBC, and I feel like, okay, come on, you guys are only showing one side of the story, and I get frustrated and I turn it off as someone who is liberal. And so I think if the media doesn't try to come more to the middle, we're going to continue to be polarized.
Yeah.
Because that's where people are getting their source of information.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
So I do somewhat agree with, I'm not saying either is right. I'm just saying it's just too extreme, one side or the other.
Yeah. I mean, but then where do we go? Because I thought that was CNN. I thought CNN was like the more credited.
Maybe I need to watch CNN.
That I think, because I do think MSNBC is really liberal. Like sometimes Rachel will literally, she is on a warpath sometimes. Like some days it's like she's coming for blood, and it's like, take a breath, girl. Like I get it. Like we all, like, it's just take a breath. You
remember her reaction when Trump won the election? She looked like she's about to jump out a window. I was like, calm down, Rachel, relax, it'll be okay.
You're gonna be fine. But that's how much they're so invested in, and I get it, honestly.
It turns people off, so they go to social media, which is worse. Because then you're looking at a meme someone put together. You have no credibility, and you're just like, oh, memes are going to give me my information now because I'm tired of hearing Rachel or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's scary but the question still is, can we get them together? Because where are we getting our news? Like, I listen to Trevor Noah. Like, I feel like Trevor Noah breaks down. If you guys watch The Daily Show, again, maybe you probably wouldn't like him, Chris, but for us, like, he breaks down things, and he does it in such a really educated, smart, funny way. It's almost like, I mean, I used to watch Daily Show with Jon Stewart, but Trevor, he brings a worldly vibe. It really, like, I find him to be, he's an amazing, like, I hope that we can find one day, because he's in New York, so I hope one day we can have him sit here. I'm putting it out there here.
Yeah, Trevor, I got no personal, I think for the way he carries himself, I respect that. He's, good, wholesome guy. I get that, but I think he's very biased as well.
Yeah.
I think where we need to get our news sources from is similar to what we're doing now, alternative news. I get my news, people say, because when I get in debates with people on the left, the first thing they say, especially when I start schooling them, is, oh, are you Fox News, Mr. Fox News? And I'm like, I don't even watch Fox News. And they look at me like, how do you not watch Fox News and talk like this? And I'm like, I get my information from alternative news.
Where, though? Give us some places.
Anthony Brian Logan, even, I hate this when I say it's too loud here, InfoWars, you know what I mean? Paul Joseph Watson. Boy, man, I can go on and on and on.
But aren't those biased? Aren't they all?
They definitely lean to the right.
Then how do we get?
But there's also leftists that are on alternative news as well. I don't ask me to say those names. I can't really know. But I see the guys out there, and sometimes I do watch them. I'm just bad with names. Okay. And I watch them, and I say, okay, I prefer this perspective on this alternative news left-leaning perspective than I do MSNBC. Because there's times when those guys on alternative news on the left, they give Trump his credit. They said, all right. And they hate to do it, but they do. So I respect that.
So I agree with you. I think that we need to do things like this, get in these kind of spaces and talk to people from different sides, because I don't think the media is going to change. But if you have a different perspective of it, you can evaluate what you're hearing a little bit different. So for me, for example, having, I have a stepfather who's very conservative. He's Irish. And, he comes from a very, Irish conservative family, and he's been in my life for 20 years. And in fact, he sent me a meme. What was it, the other day? It said, how many Russians does it take to get Hillary Clinton elected? And 0. And it was like the funny. And he sent
I love it. I love my memes, by the way, folks.
It was the day that the Mueller thing came out, and he sent it to me and my mom, of course, in a group chat, and we're like pissed, and nobody responds. But so I grew up having, not only personally having, like I said, so many different personal experiences from the different socioeconomic statuses, but I've been in spaces with so many people that I've heard their stories and their outcomes and their perspectives. So then when I do hear the media that's so skewed, I can think about it differently. But the problem is when we have people who don't have that. And then what do? Because this is all they know.
They don't vote either. So here's the problem with people like, for instance, and then here's why we felt like it was so necessary for us to start this podcast. We have people of color who basically check out. So they're like, I'm not interested. It sounds like a bunch of BS. I'm not interested in getting involved. And then we have, Caucasians, and everybody that's not a person of color, which is only Caucasians, they're politically savvy. They understand how it works. They understand that my voice counts, and if I'm upset with something, if I trip on the floor when I walk outside and there's like a pothole, then I know that I need to call my local, city worker, whatever I don't even know who you call when that happens. I would call this 411 in New York. I know 411, 311, excuse me. Is it 311?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, 311 in New York. That's all I know if there's an issue. But again, are we politically savvy? Like, are people of color politically savvy? Are we really jumping in and getting involved? Like, a lot of times you hear people saying, I don't want to vote. It's a bunch of BS. What's the point of voting? Your voice is not heard. But then it's like, when you do vote, when you don't vote, you're leaving it up to somebody else that cares about what's important to them, for them to make decisions for you. You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally agree. There was, that's why in the past we had a lot of our, people, our ancestors in the past who died for us to have this right to vote. Yeah. And that's why when I talk to black people and they get upset and they're like, it doesn't matter, left, right, we're screwed. I'm like, you're such an idiot. I hate to say it, but I'm totally honest, because you're not letting your voice be heard. And and politicians know, if you're not out there voting at all, then they're not going to waste your time with you. Right. But if they know you are a political base there, then they start taking that base seriously, and then they start doing things to get that base interested in there and what their policies are. Yeah. So they input policies around that base. So we definitely got to let our voices be heard.
Oh my God.
And I think also it goes to like our education of the process. You know what I mean? And I think it needs to happen a lot earlier on, because people can't make the connection between votes and outcomes. And we glorify these big elections, and no one really, like, perfect example, in New York City, we recently had in February a special election for public advocate.
Yeah.
Yes,
and I was like putting it on social media and like trying to like tell my friend, and no one cared. I'm like, what is wrong with you people? This is
like the second person.
This is the second hand to the mayor, and they check the mayor. So when you can't complain about things, and here you have an opportunity to check the man you're complaining about. You know what I mean? So, but we have a lack of communication, and we just glorify these bigger elections.
It's just not sexy enough. Yeah, it's just not sexy enough. Like, that's what the problem is. We are not, like, unfortunately, we are so inundated. Like, I literally just checked my iPhone, and I looked at, I'm like, I'm programmed to look at Shade Room or whatever. I wasn't looking at Shade Room, but I was just like, I'm programmed to look at like gossip, right? I'm programmed to look at, what's this person doing? What's that person doing? Versus what's important to me and my family. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain things that I need to be more focused. I mean, obviously the three of us here take exemption because we're here talking about the issues, and, we're going to be voting. Obviously we care, but for people who don't, who just check themselves out, like, it's so important. You cannot, and it's not only that you just vote. Like, I think people also have this stigma. They think that once I voted, then things should just magically, like, I voted for Obama, like, he did nothing for me. The people that do that drive me crazy. Like, have you wrote to your senator? Have you ever went to a city council meeting? Have you ever did anything outside of every 4 years voted? If you haven't gotten involved, because there's other people in this world, specifically there's, older, typically older, the older generation, they're a lot more politically involved. Like, they'll volunteer, they'll, send a letter, they'll get involved. But the younger people, if you're not getting involved and you're not doing anything more than just voting and then talking crap on social media, then you're not doing anything. You're not. You really shouldn't say anything then.
No.
Now, real quick, I do want to advocate for people who are busy, who are, there are some, like, let's be happy they showed up to vote. Okay.
Right.
True.
Very true.
But one thing I think can help is transparency.
Yes.
And I think that, we need to have more of our elected officials reporting
AOC,
quarterly, whatever.
Follow her.
Whoa, before AOC, Trump before AOC.
Well, whatever. I'm just saying, even on a local basis, like, city council, whatever.
Well, what would you recommend?
I would want to see report quarterly. I mean, I'm an auditor, so I'm like, that's how I think. But I would want to see reports of like, where did you spend the money? Where did it go? Or here was a target. Did we meet our targets? No, this is what the goals for the quarter, and did we accomplish them? Like, I'd want to see. But
where would let's practicality. Can you like, what would you say?
Email out it.
Okay.
Have your constituents on an email. Maybe
here's what we've accomplished.
Maybe I'm being too innovative, but when you're registered, you have a base of registered voters. Let's somehow automate that. Let's get them on some kind of like electronic platform or base, and they just automatically get
social media. Why don't you post it on Instagram? I feel like I'm sorry. I know you're going to jump in, but I just want to say one thing. I feel like if Obama did more talking the way Bush, I'm sorry, I can't even say the other guy's name. If the more Trump does, like Trump, like literally, if he enacts like, hey guys, I just had a meeting with this person, and guess what, we're gonna get this, and it's like I just created it's always something that he's always boasting about something, right? Mm-hmm. So for him, it's the lowering the unemployment rate, right? Mm-hmm. So that was something that was happening during we can all agree during Obama's few years. Like, we have to remember how Obama came into power in 2008. We have to remember.
Of course.
It was you voted for him twice, so it was a tough time.
Yeah, campaigned for him.
It was a tough time. He literally saved us from like the Depression. So a lot of the things that he's enacted in the last 4. Okay, well you're the finance person, so you might have to
TARP
school us.
Started with Bush. The bailout and some of that thing. So I'm just going to be fair here. Some of the stuff was in place. But can I say one thing though? Trump is an old white man. Do you really think that Obama could stand there and boast himself the way he is and not get ostracized for it?
You're right.
You guys?
He would, and he's a Leo, so how us Leos would sometimes
one thing, and I'll let Chris jump in, but one thing I grapple with myself, because I know we're going to get to talking about the current candidates and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm very conflicted with this desire to see representation, right? So seeing a woman, person of color, or a woman of color.
Right.
But then also I'm conflicted with myself in knowing that that person is going to spend their entire presidency defending themselves, fighting,
my God,
and not really being able to get anything done. So do I want to maybe vote for a white man because I want to get something done, because I can see this person possibly being able to work on the other side? Because that's kind of what I saw with Obama, and I love him. He left scandal-free. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And yet
they still make him seem like he was a big fat scandal.
There was some scandals there.
All right, what?
Okay.
Fast and Furious, the gun smuggling thing that happened with him and who was his chief of staff at that time? I can't remember his name, but Eric Holder.
Okay.
And that was an issue.
I don't know of this one.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah, I see that. I just never. I didn't read up about it, but I've been hearing about it.
Because the leftist media loves Obama. The media doesn't love Trump, but they loved Obama. And so people, I'm telling you.
Okay, but what is the Fast and Furious?
It was an issue where there was guns getting smuggled in from Mexico to the United States, and people were like saying, "Well, how's this? How are all these guns getting over here?" And they linked it to Eric Holder, who was, I forgot the title. He was in the Obama administration. He was chief of staff or something along those lines. And they found out that he had his hands involved into that.
Can it be the same thing as what the Bushes did in Iran, and how they give all the basically they've given these other countries weapons to basically turn around and use it against their people?
There's past presidents that did stuff similar. But Obama wasn't the first one to do that.
Is this the first president that's ever? I mean, I don't know this. I really would have to learn, research this.
And you also got to look at the uranium that was given to Iran. Billions of dollars that was funded over to Iran as well to help them with their nuclear program.
Yeah. But are those just policy failures? Is that a scandal?
It's a scandal because if you give something like that to a country that hates our guts, they'll use that to fight us or try to kill us. Again,
I can bring up the Shah. I can bring up in the 1970s where we gave I have to go back to my research, but I can tell you that the Republican Party has had their hands in the Middle East for a long time, and they have supplied a lot of these. I guess now we can call them, now they're terrorists, with a lot of their weapons.
I agree.
After 9/11, all the Saudis who were involved, magically flew back to Saudi Arabia, and then we turned around and started a war with what's our war with Iraq, so to me it's like there's just when we get to that point at the foreign policies and stuff, like I understand the Fast and Furious. I think that might be something that we need to really look into, and I'd like to look into that because that's something I would like to challenge next time we speak. But I don't feel like that was like Maxine said, like an actual scandal, like a real scandal.
Not a scandal
in the
like
sense of
Monica Lewinsky or something like that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Thank you.
Or Trump grab him by the. I'm just saying. But anyway,
or pay your strippers. $140,000.
Off record. That was just man talk, locker room talk.
My whole point is that I don't think I think because Trump is an old white man, he can get away with doing a lot of things and saying a lot of things. And I personally felt the same way between Bernie and Hillary. And, just the mannerisms and the way he could stand on stage and scream and point and do certain things and she couldn't. And I just feel that certain marginalized groups are not given that same, leeway on the campaign trail.
Well, that's why it's big to build a base, and that's what the black community has to wake up. If we have a black candidate and we back him, if he becomes the president of the United States, we just don't say, all right, man, I'm chilling, man. I'm done. We gotta keep showing. Look at Trump's base. I'm a part of Trump's base. I can tell you firsthand. We're out here. We were just at a rally in Manhattan a couple of days back, and we were making noise. And then the day after, Derek Gibson, shout out Derek Gibson, his daughter Diamond Gibson, both black conservatives, marched through Manhattan with a Trump 2020 flag, waving with MAGA hats on. So we make our voices heard, and that's what we got to do for the president. And trust me, if Obama and any black president for that matter sees they got a base like that fighting, he's gonna get out there and fight himself, and not be like, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that, because people are going to see that this guy has a base that's following him, and it's okay for them to follow this base as well, because they obviously support this man.
But at the end of the day, the story will be they didn't get anything done because they couldn't get anything done because they have to work with their colleagues who can't get past their skin color, or the media that is going to take the angry black woman is screaming the president, and you know what I'm saying, and not what they're trying to accomplish. We're just not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta look at the party then, because if that's the case, if say for example, if a black person runs for a Democrat, they become president, the Democratic Party needs to support the Democratic side. Like if they go against him, they're destroying their own party. And
you don't think that the Democratic Party was supporting Obama?
I do. I think they do. I think Obama had support. I think Obama could have got more done than what he did.
He tried. Remember, he lost the House. When you lose once, see, here's okay. Everyone
but
listening,
he got it back though.
Listen, at the end. Well, but when it was critical, he lost the House. When you really after 2010. He lost the House.
Mm-hmm. But universal health care should have been passed before then.
Let me say something that was a disturbing thing I had read, that during Obama's presidency, the Democrats in the state legislature lost more seats than ever in the past. Wow. I think it was like 1,000 seats.
Why do you think that happened? I think there's a little racism there. I think people were like, the thing is, when Obama won in 2008,
America retaliation vote?
Yeah. Oh my God. When America was so divided. It was like you had half of America that was so happy, blissful. You had, moderates and liberals and all Democrats, and even some Republicans who felt at ease. They felt like they had someone up there that they felt proud of the country, for once, because they felt like, you know what? For some people, they felt like they were past like racism, like it was over, like we had accomplished the precedent, right? So, but then you had this other side, like the middle of America and like the bat caves of America. I'm sorry to call you places back, but like places where you kind of really, you don't hear from them that much, but when they speak, it's like loud. They were really upset. They did not want to have their country be run by an African American man. They couldn't. It didn't matter. And then his last name, his first name was Obama. They didn't get it. His middle name was Hussein. That was like, what the heck? And then obviously he was Hawaiian. He was also one of the most like intelligent people. And I think Clinton is like one of the most smartest presidents we've had, probably the best president we've had, who's left us at like, and I don't know if you agree with me, Maxine, but like he left us at like a surplus when he left office. Yes, he had his own like, pegadillos, but
and don't forget, the most black men were put in jail under his presidency as well, with the 3 strikes you're out.
Through
3 strikes you're
through
out.
who? Through Clinton?
Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, again, that was stuff.
And Trump had to do prison reform to fix that.
Right, but okay.
I mean,
here's what that. I mean, you make a very good point. Now we have to pick that apart.
Yeah, we need to.
This because the crime policy. Okay, so we got to go back to Reaganomics first, because Reaganomics is what started the drugs in where we are. Like, look, Harlem. Look at Harlem. Please jump in. I might need you here because
I get really frustrated when young people have a perspective on the crime bill, because we were like 5. Okay, I just recently spoke to an uncle. My uncle's 65. He did 40 of his 65 years in jail. He just finished a 25-year bid. October 7th, he got out.
What?
Wow.
And he says to me, he's so excited for Joe Biden. He can't wait for Joe Biden to run. And I said, Uncle, that's strange, because you just spent the last 25 years in jail. And a lot of people spent. I mean, he committed murder, but there's a lot of people who are doing 20, 30 years who didn't, and it was other crimes. Mm-hmm. And, how do you feel about this crime bill? He says, oh, that was necessary. And I said, really? And my uncle was, they called him Alcarez or whatever, because he wreaked havoc on his neighborhood to that degree. And
where was he from?
That's a serious nickname right there.
Where was he from? Where did he?
All over the city.
Oh, New York. Okay.
Mostly,
so New York then.
New York City,
okay,
yes, New York City. And he said the 80s and the 90s were crazy.
Thank you.
He said, I personally contributed it. It was insane. He said the crime bill was necessary. And I've never had, he spent 40 years of his 65 years in jail, and he's saying it was necessary. Mm-hmm. And this is a 65-year-old man. This is not a 30-year-old millennial who's like, mind you, they do have a good point. There are people out there who are doing 20 years for a gram of marijuana. There was a problem, but overall, the bigger picture, the crime situation at the time, they had to do something drastic. Where there was a failure that I don't think they foresaw, but it wasn't let's do this mass incarceration of black people in this way. It was like, how do we deal with this out of control crime?
Right. I'm gonna say also the fact that there were also black clergymen that really they were begging politicians to do something. So people should also look into their clergy who, the reverends and they were all like, listen, my neighborhood is flooded with drugs and drug dealers. Kids can't go to school. We need help now. And
I think
80s and 90s.
maybe we can help get the real data.
We should.
And we should put help.
We should.
Because I think
Definitely.
I think we need to see the real data. I don't know how many people, the 3 strikes, I don't know how many people are doing a certain amount of, low crime offenses are doing 20. We need to see the data. I want to really understand. Are we talking about people who were arrested 100 times? Are we talking about...
I agree with that.
How many people are really in jail for that amount of time? I don't know. Right. I know it was a 3 strikes you're out, but what led to it? Where were we at?
Oh no, it was mayhem. I talked to guys. I'm not from New York. I've been here for 5 years, but a lot of my friends here, I'll call them friends, they were 50 plus and born and raised. A lot of them in the Bronx, and they would tell me about New York, and I'm like, what are y'all talking about? And they know I watch a lot of YouTube. They're like, Chris, just put in Times Square 1980s and tell me what you see. Mm-hmm. And I put that in, and Times Square was mayhem.
Scary. You couldn't walk down the street.
You could never walk on 42nd Street growing up in New York, right?
Yeah. So I just think that when we assess the crime bill, because this is going to come up, this is going to be a big thing in the 2020. I think,
of course.
Especially with Biden, if Biden goes.
Yes, and you know what? I think there's a lot of argument to make there, but I feel like we can't have the conversation. It did disproportionately disadvantage black and brown people, without a doubt. But we also have to ask ourselves, what else led? Why were they in that situation in the first place? Mm-hmm. What was the education system? What were the other systems that failed
Reaganomics,
black and brown people that made them get to that point? Let's not just look at the crime bill and say, you racist person, you did this on purpose to put black people in jail, which is how Hillary was viewed, and because I had to hear that all the time.
This is what Hillary was viewed as. Okay, so this is great. Thank you for bringing up our next topic. So my next topic was, how did Hillary lose 2016? Who's to blame? I really want to talk about that, because I still sometimes wake up in the morning and say, I can't believe we have a president that is, grabbing, that's publicly saying, grab them by the, you know what.
But that wasn't like, hey, let me brag about this.
No, I know. It was leaked, but.
And I'm sure if they.
Tells you character.
But honestly, I'll tell you, growing up in New York and having a mom who is a fundraiser a high level fundraiser, she's like, I think she's responsible for like millions and millions of dollars for different organizations she's able to fundraise, and she's had multiple events with Trump, and he never donates, and that's at like the core of who he is. Usually wealthy people, like, they like to donate, that's a tax write-off. Like, he's not the nicest guy. He really is a pompous a-hole. He really is. He's not a good person. So to go from having such a wonderful person, someone that's so educated, a scholar, to now having someone that can't even like, when he speaks, sometimes he says like the mid-level words, like, you kind of sometimes you're like, I know 7-year-olds that are more like a lot more articulate than he is. So I'm just gonna jump in and just kind of get you guys. I want to know your take on the Hillary Clinton. I really want to know, both of you, what you think was to blame, because you did mention something about what you were in there. So Max, you've got to kind of jump in. What were the people saying to you that you kept feeling? I want to hear what you think.
She's racist, and that one got me. That one got me every single time, because I'm seeing her campaign, right? Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the people behind the scenes. First of all, her headquarters was in downtown Brooklyn. Okay, and when you went in there, there was pink flags and gay flags everywhere. There was trans people and people in wheelchairs and black and brown, Hispanic, and I was like, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. Her closest aide was like a Middle Eastern woman. And
I blame her stupid husband.
I'm just saying, all of the. I mean, I know she had she had some really high profile people running the campaign that were women of color, people of color, and I just kept, and I would deal with her behind the scenes. Mind you, she was flawed as ever on camera. But behind the scenes, she was such a wonderful lady, and and loving. But I'd get that she's racist. Uh-huh. She's an elitist. Mm-hmm. She doesn't understand, everyday people. So
they did a number on her.
And a lot of it, I mean, do I think the campaign made mistakes? Yes, I do. But I think that we really undermined the social media and the power that people had. I mean, there was just memes that would go around with this completely inaccurate information. Even this small one,
did she correct any of these things? Why would
I don't think they did damage control.
Not spend time like.
And you know what? The team itself was highly confident. We were overly confident.
Yeah, that was enough.
Yep,
so you say that would be one
without
of
a doubt.
Okay, so that's something.
Without a doubt.
What do you think, Chris?
What she said is about to lead to what I said. Overly confident. She did not hit the swing states. She did not hit the swing states, and she was just thinking, "I got this on lock." Donald Trump, yeah, right.
No one's gonna vote for him.
Yeah, and I watched Trump and I watched his rallies. He was hitting these swing states back and over and over and over again, and these rallies were packed.
Obama was doing that too. Obama spent a lot of time in those. He turned states.
How did he beat Hillary?
He turned red states blue. Like
exactly
his first time,
and that's how he beat Hillary. Yeah, and that's how you campaign.
But we can't deny the misogyny that took place. Oh. We just can't.
Why didn't we start there? Can we start there? I mean, because you, as a man, Chris, like, you might be a little bit. Let's just take out the fact that her views. Maybe you're not a Hillary supporter, but a lot of men had trouble seeing her as a president or wanting to vote for someone that was a female, and women. A lot of women.
Well, to me, honestly. She didn't talk to men. She was like, women. And nothing wrong with that.
Did her gender ever bother you?
I mean, honestly, I'm not gonna say bother me, because I told my sister this. Me and my sister was a Hillary supporter. We didn't talk for a month after the president won. Mm-hmm. I told her afterwards, and I told her beforehand. I don't have a problem with a woman president, just not her.
Okay, and that's fair.
Yeah. And so,
like, they picked apart her facial expressions, her tone of her voice, her outfits, her makeup,
her laugh.
Her
laugh.
Her laugh.
She had a laugh.
I'm just saying, and then if you actually, and this is why I know misogyny is really bad, because if you compare Bernie versus her, they're on the same side, and they were not equally treated in terms of how they were assessed outside of policy and everything else, just on the the character and. she had to be this. She had to be presidential, but also like sweet and loving. And why? People were like, she looks like a bitch. Like, okay, why does that? Is that a problem? Why?
We've got Ty coming
Ty
in.
here, real quick. I kind of jump in. I'm Ty. We're on the studio, whatever. It doesn't matter. Point of the matter is, I do agree with you, but I feel like we're in a time where transparency is like people need that, and like
Gotta have it.
she had nowadays, if people smell the slightest bit of like you're hiding something or you're doing anything, they don't trust you, you know. And I know I'm bringing it kind of, you know, we got the Cardi B and Nicki Minaj thing, right? I know that's kind of separate, but the reason why Cardi is winning is because her transparency is clear. I still don't even know who Nicki is, you know what I mean? We still have like this question mark. There's still a bubble, and with Trump, there was no question mark. Everything was laid out, whether you liked it or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like
You knew
nowadays,
he had his wives, you knew everything.
like even if you look at the Oscars, anybody who won an Oscar right now, it's all about real tangible. Nothing like, you know, you
So
got
she was outdated.
outdated, but she didn't know
That's how it used to be.
Yeah, but that's how she was running her campaign how it used to be, like this type of like, we don't know, you're just saying what we want to hear, you're
Right.
trying to accommodate us, and
And remember,
not completely, but that's I know that's like a
No, thank you for that. That was a very valuable.
Very good
And we're
point.
going to
Very
get
good point.
Ty's going to jump in with his views, so we enjoy that.
Periodically.
Well, we need those. We need, because he's like the real people. So he comes in with his another point of view.
I'm you guys. I'm like in the background raising my hand, like I have a question.
So, but I wanted to say, what do you guys think about the fact that she's been a career politician?
I don't like it.
Can we just expand upon
why
that?
is everyone so excited about Joe Biden then?
Well,
I'm not excited
but
about
what
it.
about? But I'm just saying, like she has done the work. So you see, this is what people don't realize. She's one of like the most I was so inspired by her. Like I remember in 2000 she came to my high school, and I remember seeing she had a lot of makeup on, but that's something that was just a girl thing looking at. But I remember seeing her, and I'm like, damn, she's so like inspiring. Like she's running for senator of New York, and she was the first lady, and she had her husband. And everyone said that she was more fitting to be the president than she basically was hand in hand with her husband. Like, no, you're not. Don't leave the office. Don't worry. Remember, she's an attorney and a very, very brilliant one, right? I think she went to Yale. I think it was Princeton or Yale. Yeah. So what I want to say about her is that people made up their mind about Hillary Clinton back in the 80s, the 90s, when she was in there and they saw how strong she was. They said, oh, she's coming. She's next.
They wanted her to just sit there and look cute and do this China and pick it out.
And you know what she said? And she was like, no. The problem is that she was too smart and too powerful. And unfortunately, they already knew she was coming. So they said, what we're going to do is we're going to change the narrative. We're going to make her the what's that?
The villain.
The villain. And they successfully did it. So what ended up happening, she's the most qualified ever run for president. However, because they put so much back, they made black people hate her, they made white women hate her, they made white men hate her from the get-go, Asians couldn't trust her, this person, Hispanics didn't understand her, LGBT,
everybody.
think she was, they reminded us about her LGBT rules, which don't forget everybody. You know what I mean? And you talked about the crime bill. Don't forget the crime bill too. Everybody voted for Mr.
She didn't have a single vote.
Okay.
And she's responsible for the whole bill.
Crime bill because she said something that super predators, which was taken out of context.
She never assigned race to that.
And see, look, but if I was going to go there,
context.
that's another thing. The statement about the super predators she made. The statement about hot sauce in my purse. Who gives a I'm not going to curse, but about your hot sauce in your purse. That to me was fake. You're just trying to say, let me get the black votes real quick.
Pandering.
Then right before the election, she did a Jay-Z concert and LeBron James and
Obama
Chance the
did it
Rapper.
too.
And all
What
that.
makes it that because she's white, she can't have a Jay-Z concert?
No, it's not. But where are the policies for the black community? Give me the policies.
Good point.
That's what I'm looking for. Not a concert, and it's because that's black men like me.
But no one even got to the point to care about her policies. They were turned off. They were turned off from the beginning.
You didn't like her.
That's why you got to be transparent.
Like her since the the 90s. What you don't understand.
Let me tell you, when I would argue with people, especially when it was still like Bernie versus Hillary, so we're like similar on the same side, and I'd say, but what about we get into the policies? Like they couldn't have a.
Yeah, no one wanted to hear
it. Was just like,
to be fair,
I don't like her. I don't like her. I don't trust, just like Ty's saying. Like, so many different things like that. But it was not about her policies or whether or not... Because her policies were more realistic than Bernie's. You know what I'm saying? And it just...
Bernie's a socialist. Let's be real with you. Come on.
I don't know. I feel like the right wing, like this whole socialist versus capitalism, like, listen... The capitalism is great, but you have to see there's too many, like, we don't have a middle class. Like, we need to we have to try something new. I'm not saying to go socialist because America will never, ever, ever turn socialist. Like, I can, like,
thank goodness.
No, it never will. So we know that. But, like, there's certain socialist policies that we can at least critically, either adopt or or at least consider.
I mean, I don't have a problem with looking at different, ways of governing and implementing them, but I just feel capitalism has to be the ultimate picture.
Agreed.
Because obviously it works.
Agreed.
I mean, if you look at our country.
I mean, you only in America can your story be.
Oh, without a doubt.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Without
like, I mean, if you don't like,
perfect example. Right
like
there.
you said. What you didn't even, I mean, you said when you introduced yourself, you said everything about yourself, but I don't think people really understand like what you're saying, and I remember when I met you, I said, wow, you could run for like, remember I've been saying that to you a lot, like you can run for, and I do think you're will. I think maybe in a couple of years you'll be the next person that will be trying to get into office and because your story can happen here. You know what I mean? Like, can anybody say from being a teen mom to now working a 6-figure job for a corporate, like the company that you work for is huge. Do you know what I mean? And you're a CPA. And I don't know if you guys know, one of my best friends just passed the last test for the CPA. That is like one of the hardest tests to pass. It's a lot of different exams. It's really difficult. And it's nothing and I'm not saying this to kind of like say, wow, how could you do it? But it's more so to say like how inspiring it is obviously in America that this can happen.
What great example of Maxine here, and great example, Dr. Ben Carson.
Oh my God, another one.
Came from a bad neighborhood, got stabbed when he was a kid. Mom couldn't even read. Mom made him read.
Yeah,
and learn to read. And
but what was okay? So we talked about Hillary. I think we kind of understand where she kind of. I think social media was also a big one. You're right about that. I think she also didn't discuss, like, she wasn't like, there were things that people were saying about her, and maybe she should have done more like interviews like the Breakfast Club and stuff where she could really like. So what do you guys? What? No,
then why are you at the Breakfast Club?
You don't think that was
that to me it seems like the hot sauce in the purse thing. It's
okay, because I feel like you don't think that would help like her break down, because like I feel like there has to be some kind of place where people can like break down her policies and do it in a way where
nobody cares.
That's true.
I think that we're at the point.
You're right. What am I doing?
I don't think
anyone it was over.
I just think I don't think people care as much about policy.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. When I did my client had to perform at a election, like we had this election thing that we had to perform for. And we went down to Florida, and honestly, the crowd, when we said, "Is everybody going to vote for?" It was like Angie Martinez. It was like all these different celebrities. And when everyone was like, "Is everyone going to vote for Hillary? What's going on?" And this is like a black college, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah." It was like there was no like electricity. And this was the day before the election. I said to myself, I said to my friend, I said, "Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna." Something's off.
That's how I knew Trump was going to win the election.
Did you?
When they were doing the whole 98% chance that Hillary's going to win, like BS.
I didn't.
I did not believe. I
come on.
No,
honestly,
seriously.
Chris.
Seriously, if you can go to my social media on the day of the election,
I'm going to
please
that's
do.
crazy.
No, seriously, please do. I got in like 20 arguments because I'm like, here we come. One of my good friends from childhood pretty much became no longer friends that day because I pretty much said, he said, "You're crazy for voting for Trump, and I'm going to see you in the crazy house." I'm like, well. I said something crazy to him too. I'm not going to say it here. And he went on his Facebook and said, Chris said I'm going to pretty much burn in hell. I mean, not Kerstyn, but that's, hell is for voting for Hillary. And I said, yeah, but you got plenty of years to repent once Trump's president. And so that's how hard I was going, because why? Because I was looking at the YouTube, I was going to Trump's rallies, they were filling out football stadiums. And then you go to Hillary's library, she's struggling to fill out a library. And I'm like,
I mean, they weren't always that small.
They weren't always that small. They weren't always that small, but there's a couple that were.
Yeah,
that were
but
not,
then
not
how do you
impressive.
explain the 3 million people the 3 million more votes that she got than Trump did? Like, come on, like,
that's electoral
New York
college.
City, New York City, and L.A.
We could talk about. I personally think that
it's fair.
The office of president has completely changed, probably forever, in the sense that it's no longer about credibility, qualifications, and it's all about this whole like celebrity persona. And I kind of
Kanye West talking about right now.
I partly blame. I think it's a combination of Obama coming in, and he was a superstar with swag, and it was like we never had this before, and all of a sudden, personality mattered. In the past, it was old white men, and no one really cared what they were doing day to day. We didn't have insight into it the way we do now. And I think when you combined Obama coming in as this, personality that we've never seen before, and you combine that with social media, where now we can follow his every day and we can see every single thing that's going on. That is now the standard. That is now what people care about. And so Trump, even though he's an old white man, but he has the dramatics and the theatrics, and he's still bringing people this reality star kind of thing. And Hillary was like the regular politician, and no one, it doesn't get our dopamine going. Yeah, so it's like,
and I see that as a good and a bad thing. Bad in the fact that what's that going to bring in? That's open the door for who now? Like, who knows who's going to be running now? In the future?
That's the thing. We have like 20-something candidates, and you're only talking about a few of them.
So is there's my next topic, is the Democratic Party in trouble in 2020? Like, because like we're trying to take back the
Senate,
the White House,
and the White House,
and the Senate. And we've got some real. I think we have like Georgia. I think we can get Georgia if we can convince what's her name,
Stacey.
Yeah, if we can convince her.
Stacey Abrams is a nut. I'm sorry,
Really?
She's crazy.
You don't like her?
She every time she opens her mouth, she says something foolish, and then she's talking about taking away guns in Georgia. You can't take away Georgia people's guns.
I don't think she's going to take away
guns.
But
she was talking like that. And,
I think a lot of these. Okay,
that's not going to work in Georgia.
Not at all.
But she didn't say that though. I'm telling you guys, she carry. Like, this is what happens. This is what happens a lot, in this country. People use what you say and they like change it around, and then it gets taken out of context, and then it's like law. Where she literally sat on The View and she said, listen, I am not taking anybody's guns. However, there's reasonable gun laws that we should adopt. There's some things like there's certain rifles that I don't think anybody should own. I honestly don't think people should carry rifles or have rifles in their homes.
Semi-automatic weapons.
Trump got rid of bumps. Legal. They made bump stocks illegal to stop the
and also, can we also make it that blind people, because in certain states blind people can actually own a gun. Like, can we make it so that there are reasonable gun measures so that little kids don't get shot in their schools and have to do these weird gun drills? Like, this is not America. This is not the country. This country is we're supposed to be the ones that show the world how democracy works.
Remember, America was built off guns. That's how we defended ourselves against the British.
Right.
So this country was built off people owning guns.
And
the Constitution was made with the Second Amendment to pretty much tell people, we want you guys to have guns because one day you might have to come after us because we might try to take over you guys again.
So what do you think? So should we all just walk around like it's the Western?
No, I think we need a vet. It's a vetting system. You got to, maybe get more detailed with the vetting system of who should own a gun and who shouldn't own a gun. I think, but the problem is if you if we just take away guns tomorrow, do you think the criminals are going to be the ones handing their guns over?
But was that ever?
And it's also, by the way, it's when they say they're going to take your guns, please stop believing that. It's like buyback. There's like buyback programs they're talking about, and they have it in like Chicago, and they have it like in places where
how's Chicago doing with the gun thing?
Listen, how Chicago? We don't make guns. Black people don't make guns. It's coming somewhere. Can we all agree that it's not like it's something like, I would understand if Chicago was blowing people up and they were making like bombs in their like living rooms. There is no way that African Americans can just shoot someone without having a gun given to them. They have to get it from somewhere. Where are they getting these guns? Can we talk about that first? There's a reason why they've used Chicago to basically it's one of the chocolate cities, you know. So I do feel like there's a lot of stuff, and you know that's you know how corrupt that city is. So
Jussie Smollett.
I can't. I'm not jumping into.
That's a different podcast. Different podcast.
I can't even get into that one. That one that was a disappointment. Whether you believe it, he did or not, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So all right. So the next question I was gonna ask you guys. So what policies do you feel like people of color should be focused on for their candidates in 2020?
Jobs are, to me, the most important thing. You know, I mean, Trump bringing in the lowest black unemployment in American history it's to me was just epic. I mean, because
what specific policy or legislation resulted in that?
The trade tariffs that he did against like places like China and everything like that. Because when
they can link that to the creation of jobs for black people.
Yes, because what happened was a lot of businesses were going over to cross seas because the high taxes they were. Like, why am I going to start a business over here and get taxed out of my yin yang, where I can just go to China and open a business there?
But this is what I mean about the transparency. Did you just have Trump stand on stage and say, I am responsible for the lowest black unemployment rate? Or did you see a connection in some kind of like
No, I did, because
tangible...
Trump said in his rallies, I'm going to bring manufacturing jobs back into the community. And there's a YouTube video I recommend people watching. Just do type in like Barack Obama talks manufacturing jobs or something like that, where right before the end of Barack Obama's presidency, he was doing like a town hall setting, and there was a black gentleman set up that was from like the Midwest, Milwaukee or something like that, and he said, you know, President, you know, what are you going to do about manufacturing jobs? They closed down like 10 different manufacturing businesses here where I live, and I have no job, and are you going to bring manufacturing jobs back here? And he said, you know, country's moving forward in a different way pretty much, and those jobs aren't going to be the jobs that's going to be part of the future. We don't have a magic wand we can wave around to bring those jobs back. And Trump came in and brought the manufacturing jobs back. And then Trump said, I guess I got that magic wand.
I thought the tariffs on China were on hold.
No. There's tariffs going on. It's definitely going on with China right now.
China, he was able to do. He was able to go with he did those like tariffs that have changed,
like steel that he did, and my Jewish company I work for wasn't too happy about that, even though they voted for Trump. But he got it done, and it's like it wasn't pretty, and there's some people that were upset with him, but they needed to be done because China had no respect for us when it came to the tariffs. That's one of the reasons we got so much in debt, because China's ripping us off. And it's like I was tired of seeing it too, even before Trump.
No, that's not the reason why you guys got that were in debt.
That's not the only reason.
We spend a lot on. We spend so much money on military. We spend more money on military than like 6 nations combined.
Well, that's the issue I have with the Republican Party, in my opinion. I tell people all the time, my title, by the way, for people, conservative in New York on YouTube. A little quick marketing plug.
And Instagram too, right?
Yeah, Instagram as well. But the reason, I say conservative, not Republican, is I don't consider myself a Republican. If another Bush runs in 4 years, I am not going to vote for anything last name Bush. Period. Because they're wartime presidents. All they want to do is have war and da da da. And that's not conservative ideology. And I'm like, I'm a conservative because the ideology of conservatism, I represent that ideology. But if a president runs as a Republican tomorrow and he doesn't fit that ideology, then I'm not voting for you. So that's the problem with the Republican Party. That's how they got in such a hole that they are in right now, is they had a lot of the previous presidents we had were just foolish, just getting in foolish wars, weapons of mass destruction, all that nonsense. So
you said jobs. And was there anything else that you think that people of color should be focused on?
People of color should be focused on, jobs is the main thing I'm looking at, but also, healthcare. That's very important. Okay. You know what I mean? That's something that
Where do you stand on healthcare?
Oh man, healthcare is interesting. I voted for Obama to get universal healthcare because I want. Surprise, right? Surprise! You didn't see that coming, did you?
Yeah, that's
and I was a little disappointed with Obamacare. I want the full deal. You know what I mean? Because I was interested to see how that worked for the country. Now, years has passed by. I necessarily don't know if universal healthcare is the best way, because I see that you don't always get the best doctors when you have universal healthcare. America has the best doctors in the country because I think we don't have universal healthcare. And if you look at places like Canada, and I talk to Canadians about this, and they say they come to America for certain surgeries because they don't have the doctors to do it correctly over in where they're at. So
Interesting.
yeah, so but I think
Cuba has one of the highest rates of doctors. Also, they have a really, really strong medical community. Just 'cause.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
so triggered by this conversation.
What do you think?
But also prison reform too.
Prison reform is another one.
Something we got to look into.
What do you think? What do you say when you say prison reform? Where do you want?
I say we need to look. The whole thing with the 3 strikes laws was an earlier example. Is we got to look if we're putting these individuals in jail. I mean, what are we putting them in jail for, really? And if we're gonna, should we just slap them on the wrist, give them a fine, or should we throw them in prison? And because black fatherhood to me is very important in the black community, and we're lacking in that because of prison, and because of just violence, because of the welfare system. In my opinion, I think Planned Parenthood is a problem, and these are all government assisted programs that I'm just.
I want you to. I know we're getting closer to the end of this podcast, but I want you to kind of, if you can quickly talk about like the black fatherhood, because I think it's so important.
Yeah.
Your views on that. We had a good conversation about it.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems in the black community is the lack of fathers in the community, and I think, and this is one of the reasons why I had an issue with the Democratic Party when I looked at the history, because if you look at when the country started, Democrats were the one who were enslaving blacks, and what the first thing they would do to a black family cut them off the slave ship is remove the father out of the picture physically, and they had the mother.
You're talking about the old Democrat.
Please, Democrat. That's old. That's slavery we're talking about. So
that was like the old Republican. That's like considered like the Republican Party of today.
But now look at the Democratic Party now. They're big on the welfare system. Now, what does the welfare system do to a black woman? They say, hey, if you can put on paper that there's no man living in your house, we'll give you more government assistance.
Right.
So what's that going to do? Get the heck out of here.
But we do, and then see, I'm going to have to keep jumping in, because we also have to remember when FDR, when FDR put it, when all these when these like programs like welfare were started. I think it's FDR that created it.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it was. Okay. That was because of women who had husbands that died in wars. You know what I mean?
No, it made sense.
So it's not necessarily just if you can prove that if you can throw your boyfriend out or your husband out of the house. It wasn't always that. We also kind of utilized it differently because of need, because of sheer need. We also have to understand that black women make less than 40, how much?
64 or $60
something
like that.
Of a $1. Like so you have to see it that way, where come on, you know what I mean? Like it's like they've got 3 kids. I've got to find a way to.
I have to.
You gotta. Yeah.
Well, I have to jump in.
You have other. Yeah, you want to jump in.
Well, I was just gonna say that I'm gonna be devil advocate here.
Okay. Oh.
Ooh.
What?
Ooh.
The welfare system incentivizes poverty.
Okay, wait. All right, wait.
So I'm sorry.
Dial me back in when you call Max. Can you call Max back?
I'm sorry. I told you I'm going to be straight up here.
Okay. Tell me, what is it?
Keep it real.
This is, I guess, my fiscal.
Okay. Wow.
Conservatism.
I was expecting that.
I think I was 7, 8 months pregnant, walking into a welfare office.
Okay.
I'm a full-time college student.
Okay.
I have no family support. My family turned their backs on me because I decided to keep the baby at 18.
Okay.
I go into a welfare office and they have these ridiculous requirements. Like you have to do at least 21 hours of work, but you couldn't make like more than $450 a month.
What?
It was like ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was like you had to literally work like the lowest possible job you could possibly get. And I'm on campus, because they want you to focus on school, the requirement was you couldn't work more than 20 hours. So we're talking about a 1-hour difference where I was becoming ineligible. And I had this woman look me in my face and say, maybe school is not the right time for you. I said, does that make any sense? I'm asking for your support for 3 years so then I can get a job, a real job, and be helping fund this system. And you're telling me I'm not eligible, it doesn't work, and she's trying to help me figure out a way to be eligible, and like he was saying, almost like making it get a lower job or get out of school, like doing all this stuff to get in this program. And and I've also so that's my personal experience.
Okay, so then what do you say?
Flawed.
But you got to explain like how it keeps. So you're basically saying because
it's people and even more recent. I've just a couple of years ago I was living with my aunt. She was living in the house with me, and she was for 4 years unemployed. I'm getting up every day at 6 o'clock to go to work, and I'm watching this grown woman, go to she had to go to a program for an hour, 2 hours.
And
she
was
could
she
do
on a government assistance?
Yes,
Oh,
and she
okay.
could do like these things to just get out of it, and it was just, you know, it was easy, and she was like gaming the system, and it was just, and you know, and it was set up. It's set
But
up.
let's also it's not like a predominantly
flawed.
African American people of color. That's
No,
not
no,
the
no,
people.
No, I didn't
who,
say I didn't say
no, I know,
poverty.
I know.
Say,
I just want to put that out there for the listeners
I'm
too.
just
I just
saying
want to like let everybody know. Also, just majority of people who are on government assistance are white because of the way the country's broken. I mean, there's more white people than there is black or Spanish.
Yes.
So let's just put that out there.
And they're in the same predicament.
They're in the same predicament.
And they're in the same predicament.
So,
where
and they game the
have to make a
system too,
decision,
obviously.
And the system is made for them. It's incentivized.
So, but that's not a democratic.
It's just a I didn't say it
no,
was.
FDR did start it.
I'm
though.
not saying
and he started to me because FDR genuinely wanted to help out the community, help
he
everybody.
wanted to help the women, who lost their husbands in World War II.
It's almost like it's easier to keep these people poor and fund them than to really truly help them get the skills and the stuff they need to get to lift themselves up.
And that to me is a Democratic Party with black community. They'd rather have us down and get the vote than us go up and be successful and start looking around and what we should do politically. They don't want us looking around politically.
I think because Democrats are for funding welfare, it seems like we are owning this.
Yeah,
and it's on our platform, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say we fully do. But I think that it's an important topic if you want to ask, what do I think matters to people of color?
Please.
And I personally believe welfare reform needs to be changed. It breaks my heart. I was lucky enough to have a full academic scholarship because I was smart. But what about that other teenage pregnant mom
what
who's
if you weren't
sitting
even
there
in college and like you
right,
know,
but doesn't have, and she's got to now make this decision that it's keeping her perpetually in poverty. I've seen this time and time again, and it breaks my heart. I feel like you talk about my story, but I also think I had a bit of luck.
Yeah.
In the sense that there's a
Agreed.
lot of young women of color and other people of color out there that are in these situations, and they are heavily disadvantaged for the most part of their life.
Yeah, thank you for
so
sharing
we,
that,
we,
Maxine.
we need to really address welfare reform.
So welfare reform,
Education.
Education.
Education to me is really important. I'm a mother of a child with special needs right now. My son is ADHD. He has dyslexia. He's also have sensory processing disorder, and I am struggling. I am struggling to get him the right care.
He's so cute, by the way.
Thank
He's
you.
such a cutie.
So I think that we need to focus on early intervention and just education in general, especially because I'm in Staten Island, which is kind of a racist borough. Okay,
Hello.
So it just straight up is, and I'm seeing the differences in between how kids of color are treated and other kids, and it breaks my heart. And I'm a very educated, proactive parent, but I can see when there's other parents out there who don't, how their kids are being set up for failure. So these are some of the things: education, healthcare, welfare reform, jobs. Like,
does anybody want to talk about the climate? How do we feel about climate? Because we talk healthcare, we talked about. What about the climate?
What I feel about climate is, taking care.
You think it's a hoax?
Yeah, I think it's a hoax.
No,
Yeah, let's keep it real here. I
Do you really think it's a hoax?
I think it's a hoax because
you don't think these Cat 5 hurricanes are like happening more often than usual?
No, I mean, but I haven't been here since the world's existence, so I can't, look at the whole thing. But the thing is, when I look at climate change, I remember the movie Inconvenient Truth when it came out, Al Gore, and that's when I was still a Democrat, and I was a huge fan of the movie, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is important, this is serious, and that's when it was global warming. And now it's been look how long this winter is in New York. We had a lot of cold going on here. But that's the same.
Climate change is like more extreme weather.
But that's my thing. But now they changed the terminology to climate change. Why did you call it from climate change from the jump? And if you talk about climate change,
just because we used the wrong terminology. Sorry. Listen, we apologize for calling it global warming. It's climate change. And can we say that there's a climate change? Can we say that we're having more Category 5 earthquakes, hurricanes? We're having these
cyclones.
What are those? Yeah, what do you call them? Yeah, is it cyclones? That's what they call it? Tornadoes.
No, they just had a cyclone in Mozambique. Was it?
Yeah, somewhere in New York.
Like there's a lot of things. The fires, the wildfires in California. Like we U.S. has to do something, and this is something since the 80s they've been talking about it. It's getting worse. If Al Gore won in 2000, I think today we'd be breathing a lot healthier. And in mean, remember, you've got kids in the Bronx. We've got kids we're sitting in Harlem. We have kids in the Bronx that suffer with asthma. The highest percentage of asthmatics are in the Bronx. You've got people in Flint that don't have clean water. Like
this data, and do you not agree with? I
hear the data.
It's literally
or do you
happening.
think it's not as serious as people are making it?
I don't think it's as serious as people are making it, because climate change has been going on since the world existence. It's just a part of the world. And now do I think it's happening a little more lately? I got to see the numbers to confirm, but I do see a lot going on.
But
out there.
We're more industrialized.
We are, but China's the most industrialized. And if you look at China, they got people walking around with face masks on, and it's like, so people always point, USA, do something, do something.
No, China's starting too. Yeah,
But China's going to look at the money. They're going to say, we're going to pollute this place to death if we get more money than America. And that's the whole thing. And once China has more money than us, you think they're going to play patty cake with us?
We're trying to prevent from being the next China.
Yeah.
I mean, we do.
And Obama had them. I think, from what I understand, he had them. Like, there was like some of the some of those laws that he had where they kind of like decreased their I guess the pollution. And then I don't know, now with Trump, I mean, I don't think that's. I think that he might have let them slide with that because he doesn't believe in the climate change theory.
Yeah. I just think if we're going to seriously take climate change very, very seriously, it's a world topic, not just an America.
Oh, I agree 100%.
But we were one of 3 countries that were out of the Paris deal or something?
Yeah,
it is a world topic, but we, like Americans in China, don't live off climate. Where other people around the world, more third world countries, they live off the climate. They need the sun, they need the rain to grow their crops.
Right.
Once their crops and stuff start not growing and things are not happening, that creates famine. That famine starts to create more crazy killings and robberies and people who really live off the water. Like they live off the land. Like they don't go to the supermarket. Like they go to.
Until it affects America, we're not going to do anything about it.
It's not going to affect America because we'll put something in a lab. You know what I mean? Like I just the other day
genetic food.
Just the other day I just tried the Impossible Burger. I just tried it. I wanted to see what it was about.
Vegan next week.
But they made a whole burger that's plant based that looks like meat, tastes like meat. Like you know what I mean? So
So wait, what are you saying, Ty? So you're saying
I'm saying that it would be more lucrative to not live for the world to die, because what happens is like, even if you look at Monsanto, if you look at birth control and all these type of pills and all that type of stuff, it's a patent. You own it. So once you own the patent, you have more control over the money. So like, if I like a genetically modified fruit that is made, I own that fruit now because it wasn't something that was made from the ground. So that's why genetically modified fruits are more pushed out, because I own it now. If I'm getting something from the earth, I can't really take. It's like percentage wise, I don't personally own it.
You don't own water.
So same thing. Like if you look at like medicine back in the day, if you went to any China, maybe in China in certain areas, like they had mason jars of ginger and turmeric and all these type of things where people are creating in a lab, but when you create in a lab, it has a patent. I own it. And then now anybody who owns it, they ship it out to the doctors. The doctors get the kickback for everybody. You know what I mean? I know I'm going in a whole nother direction.
But it is a good point
but
that you're making.
For someone who's like, for example, they're starting to create fake sunlight. What? Like not fake sunlight, but for plants and things like that. But they're also going to be, they don't charge us for sunlight right now. But when they can figure it out, they will. I'm serious. Like you think I'm joking because that's like vitamin D, like those type of things that we need in the world. They haven't figured it out a way, but like. In Africa, there's areas where there's clean air, and there's area where there's.
I just think about.
It's coming. Trust me. When it gets polluted, we're going to be paying for air soon.
When you think about what they're doing to the rainforests in Brazil and South America, and how these countries are like chopping down trees, and this is like, I think
it's just a very selfish perspective to think in the now, because you may think this is not as serious as it is because you can't really think out 300 years from now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course.
And
because it's not a topic that
right. And I think for me,
we're worried. To be fair, we're worried about what's now too.
So my children's children's children, that could then it may be a problem. And if I just sit around and not do anything about it, because it's not going to really affect me in my lifetime. But I think most people who are arguing about climate change obviously know we're okay today, except for the communities in which you're just mentioning that are suffering today. But most Americans are not totally suffering from climate change unless they were involved in a natural disaster.
It's the elevator.
Farmers are worried about it.
The majority of people are okay.
We're fine.
It's the elevator effect. Like, it doesn't matter. You know, we're all in an elevator. You could be Buddhist. You could be Christian. You could be Hindu. You could like Trump. You could like Obama. If we're all in the elevator and we're trapped, we're going to figure it out.
Of course.
Right now, we're not all in the elevator. So we're no one affected, and everybody's like able to go their separate and deal with their life.
Very true. But I want accuracy. That's my thing. You know what I mean? If I say I want to see the numbers, if you serve me the numbers, lay it out, and it's boom, boom, fact, I'm not going to argue.
Be telling the auditor to get data.
I like what you said about. I think that's what we should like.
Can we somehow figure that out?
We have to find a way to
distribute that
information to Democrats.
But you know, if you look at inconvenient,
we'll make sure it's fair and not biased.
Yeah, exactly. But you look at inconvenient truth. I mean, the glaciers are supposed to be like gone by now. Like where? Like what are you talking about?
They are. There are some that are like. I mean, but they are
some
melting.
Have disappeared, right?
Like you can't say that they're not melting though.
Yeah, but you can't make people panic either. You can't. You know, that's what AOC. The world's gonna be over in 10 years. Shut up. Sit down. Shut up, please. You're crazy.
Well, you got to remember the Earth is still the Earth is still a living organism. So even though we might be doing things, it's still going to fight its own way to thrive. Like your body, like you know what I'm saying. It has the Earth has its own. What is it called in your body? When your immune system.
Yeah, there you
go. So the Earth has an immune system, so things might not be actually melting because other things are being, I'm not the scientist as far as how, the core and the temperatures and everything like that, but you have to be at least aware of the pollutants and the things that we're doing. We can't ignore it, and we also, like you said, in the facts, we can't say that. It's just like scientists was like, oh, the world is flat, the world is round, and there's no proof of anything. But we have to kind of use some type of probability and to say like, all right, well, maybe we can reduce. Maybe we can reduce this, or maybe we can, for example, like we don't need cars to pump gas anymore. Cars can run off air and cars can run off water. But the only problem is that people are losing out on money. So you got a whole system of cars that can be electric that can at least stop pollution. But unfortunately, it's like if we're all in a room and we put up, let's say we're millionaires and we put up $10 million on X amount of cars are supposed to be made, and we're supposed to get $100 million or $200 million back over a 15-year course. Now somebody comes out with a whole new technology. They just took out our investment. You know what I mean? So now you got people sitting there like, I'm not going to. No, I want my investment. Like, and and they're not thinking about it because most of them are super old, so they're already looking at their time as like, all right, I'm gonna be out. This money that I'm gonna give is for my family and that family's family and whatever they decide to do with it. So they're thinking more on a personal level, but not on a global level.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. I'm gonna add one other topic that I want to know what you guys think about. Okay. This is a big topic in the community. Reparations is I don't want to say it's in the community, but it's been a topic from like I feel like since
it's
like
brought up. People bring it up
since like what like the 60s maybe they were talking about reparations. Were they trying to get reparations back then?
Before after slavery.
Right after slavery. So what was it? The 40 acres and
40 acres and a mule.
40 acres and a mule. Okay, so where do you guys think? I want to know, Maxine. I want to know first. What do you think about? Now we have to break it down because I saw Fox like talk about reparations and the way they bring, how they like slaughter the topic. They go and they make it seem like, well, it was a Nigerian that comes. This was one of the I forgot her name. She says, is a Nigerian that just got to the country. Are they going to get the reparations? Like, what is this? Like, it's Or another political pundit said, oh, well, it's, things are it's just too long. We can't figure out how this, like, how this happened. It's just, we missed our window. It's over. Like, no one living today has a actual a grandparent or great grandparent that's living that was a slave. So I really want to know your thoughts, Max.
This is a tough one.
Oh, okay.
Because
you're also the financial wizard here.
So
I would like to know how real is reparation? Like, how can
I was trying to figure that out. First of all, how do you quantify it? And how do you realistically distribute that? Because I think it is going to be really hard to see who has ownership to what and how much of it. You know, so for example, I tried diligently to trace my own heritage. I started out just going through Ancestry and doing all like this kind of stuff and with the family tree, and I got down to a marriage certificate between my great-great-grandparents in 1885 in Hale County, Alabama. And obviously the descendants of slaves, but I couldn't tie, and I was ready to go down to Alabama and go to the libraries and try to find out which plantation did they come from. If I can't do it, how are we going to do it for the 12 million Black Americans that we have here? And like I said, okay, so I'm 50% African. So what do I get half of the, how do we then figure it out? Because most Black Americans are mixed. My father, who's Black, through DNA testing, because we both did the Ancestry DNA kits, found out he's 30% white. Most Black Americans are going to have this whole mix going on. So it not only just from genetically is it practically impossible, it's very hard to trace your heritage because most slaves didn't have paperwork. There wasn't it's very difficult to be able to do that. And then how do you quantify? How do you retrospectively put a value on something and then distribute it? And I'll end with this. One of my best friends is South African. She's what they call, there's 4 races out there. There's Black, colored, Indian, and white. She's Indian. But they're going through this whole thing, I don't know if you guys know about it, where they're going to give land back to the Black population.
Which is fair.
And it's causing havoc out there. And if you think we're polarized now, wait till they start giving Black people money. Oh my God. It is getting so nasty and so ugly in South Africa. I do think something has to happen, but I don't know if it needs to be money. I was reading there was some people who were saying maybe there's other sources and I guess that's what affirmative action or things like that are essentially, but there need to be some kind of other way to give back and acknowledge the disadvantage that took place in the horror, and I just don't know.
Well, I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to just add this into the conversation for you guys to debate. In 1990, USA gave $1.6 billion to 20,000 Japanese Americans. That's 1990. In 1990, Austria gave $25 million to Holocaust survivors. Not each person, but they broke it up. In general. 1988, Canada gave 250,000 square miles of land to India and Eskimos. 1988, Canada gave 230 million to Japanese Canadians. And I can go on and on.
The difference is all of these people can trace back to their heritage. Most of them. It's not hard to trace the Japanese. Yeah, but I
think Jewish people, it's kind of hard too.
But when you enslave people, they were brought over here. There wasn't any kind of documentation for the most part. I mean, there probably is to some standpoint because you were a piece of property.
There's Blacks that live here that aren't from Africa. Nothing to do with Africa, West India.
There was still slavery, not the United States.
But not the United States doing slavery.
So you don't. Okay, I think you can trace. I think there's some, especially Black Americans who come from the South, that's a pretty big red. That's hello, where you can't.
Well, my dad.
I was saying, for example, I'm mixed.
Me too.
Half Black, half Puerto Rican.
Okay.
Genetically, it came out to be half African.
Okay.
41% European and the rest Native American. So is it fair to give me the same as, then we're going to start arguing within the Black community. Well, she's mixed, so how come she's getting the same as me?
Okay. That argument will happen.
Okay, that's true.
I just don't think it's realistic.
So why is it that it's not realistic when it comes to, listen, I just told you my parents are both. Both my parents weren't born in America, so I'm already out of this. I'm not even in this. They're not getting. The only thing I have connected to the civil rights is that my one of my great aunts was connected to John Brown, the abolitionist who freed slaves. Oh, wow. So because John Brown actually spent time in Haiti, so that's really the reason why. So that's the only connection that I have to the slavery experience, because both my parents flew in. Their parents flew them in here, so there's no That's it. So I don't have a bone to pick in this topic. However, I do feel like there is some reparations is really about repairing something that was broken, and it broke what slavery did, and Jim Crow laws broke the African American people. All right, there's blacks in America who deserve to get something back. If it's not $1, it should be land. It should be something quantifiable for for what has done to their families, the lynchings. Like, we cannot say, if we're going to talk about Holocaust and be extremely upset when we go to the
Holocaust Museum,
the museums, thank you, or watch the Schindler's List. We just watch these movies about slavery, and we just go, oh, that's so sad, and then make white people feel mad. I don't want white people to feel white people that live in America now have, unfortunately, they have nothing to do with slavery.
Exactly.
They've done nothing right now, that are living, walking, and breathing, have not been.
They've benefited.
They've just benefited. But that's it. But that's just, it's almost like, hello, I benefited from being an American, so it's fine. However, there are actual black people who are disingenuous. Like, some people that live like in Harlem that came from. We can trace from them being from the South, moving out to New York for opportunity.
That's what happened to my family.
Yeah. So
Alabama to New York.
It doesn't matter if you get a quarter of it, if you get 30%, there needs to be some kind of coalition that is voted on it's bipartisan, and it should be done. Repair what you broke. But you broke the black community, and then afterwards, 10 years from now, we can now say, okay, it's at least, I'm not saying it still won't be an even playing field, but at least we can say we've done right by the black community.
I think the black community are going to go crazy.
No, of course. I think
the infighting is going to
be infighting.
And then you have a lot of white people who are like, can we just get over this slavery thing? Do you know how angry? You already have a huge population of white people who are tired of hearing about slavery.
They are.
You start talking about giving money back. I mean, it's just,
yeah, but why does it the infighting in the community, like? Honestly, like,
there's like colorism. We have so many.
I tell you all the time. They talk about, I wish white people weren't, they weren't around. We'd be owning this. We'd be doing that. I'm like, if you got rid of, and I'm not saying doing this, but I said, if you get rid of white people tomorrow, we will have wars within the black community against light skin versus dark skin, and that is
the only reason why we have that is because white people have made us not like our own self. But, because I tell you this, in Africa, there isn't that. Like, in African countries, people are not fighting each other because you're black and you're darker than I am. That's not a thing. Like, that's not a thing.
South Africa, they are. They have a whole.
Again, what you can't forget, the 90% of the country is black, and 5%, 90, I said 90, 10% of it is white, and they control the majority. So obviously they're going to, and you guys should read Trevor Noah's book. It's amazing. He breaks down, like, South America apartheid. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, the way apartheid is, like, it's an amazing, when you really see how European men broke, like, you come to another country that's inhabited by its black people, and because it's such a beautiful land, you said to yourself, we're gonna conquer you guys, and we're gonna control you guys, and we're gonna have the best parts of the country, and you're going to work for us, and we're not gonna let you have relationships with us. You're not going to be able to get educated. We're gonna make you hate each other.
America.
Yeah, but, like, think about it. But this is worse. Like, it's almost like if America came to, Ghana and did, you know what I mean? Like, this is horrible. That was horrible. So people deserve the reparations, period. It happened. If this was the other way around, if blacks were the ones in power, they would have to do it too. What's wrong is wrong. You have to repair what you broke. You broke something.
Like, I do agree. There's other communities that, like, say, the Jewish community, that got some form of reparation. If there was a form of reparation given to the black community, I wouldn't be out here protesting or nothing like that. But my thing is, money, I think, would be suspect. It would be difficult. And I just feel that I remember, like, for example, when Dave Chappelle had a skit, when he had a Dave Chappelle show, and it was if blacks got reparations tomorrow.
Yeah.
If y'all
the
remember.
Liquor stores would be.
Yeah, and it's like balling, and it's just, You know, so I don't know if I don't think money's the answer necessarily, but I think I'm open to discussion.
Are you open to land?
Yeah, I'm open to discussion.
I mean, land is kind of hard too.
Yeah, land is. Yeah, you know, because somebody owns a home and got land, and be like,
Sorry,
I gotta go.
I mean, I think something needs to happen, but isn't that what affirmative action was? Things like that. We're trying.
Good point.
Something like something.
Yeah, that was a form of it.
Then people would say
that was a form.
That was a form of it. But
Definitely
again, it's like, why can't we fix what was broken to this, like, a community of people? Why can't this be a specific thing that's like, wow, we really made a mistake here, we need to figure out a way we can fix it? Okay, so maybe it's not reparations, fine, because Bernie Sanders, he says he doesn't believe in reparations, right?
Yeah.
So he says, what is it, a dollar amount? And when he said it, everyone was like, oh no, we don't like him, because see, what's happening is politicians are talking, Democrats are speaking, everybody's talking about reparations like they're going to do it, right? And the thing is, you know, no one's really breaking it down as to how it can be really done. Like, because we're sitting here trying to figure it out ourselves. Right. Like, really, what is your plan for reparations? Right. Because it could be just like one of these political promises that they make for us, and we're like voting for, you know, Kamala because she says it's, which I do like Kamala, but Kamala says she believes in reparations, and Marianne says she believes in reparations, and this one does. But what does that mean? Where does the money come from? How do you break down the money?
I just think it's going to create chaos. I don't really see how it's...
And within the black community, and also this outside our community too, because like I said, especially talking about land, like we just mentioned, like you can go to somebody's home and you got to tell your family to leave.
There's
why?
No free
Because you're white
out there.
You know, like, isn't that kind of like the...
But that's what they're doing in South Africa. They're actually taking it from white people and giving it to black people.
And they're killing a lot of those white people too.
And it hasn't started yet, but no, that's what they're doing. And and they're going to be out there with their shotguns out here, touch my land.
Yeah, come on, take my land if you want them.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, again, and that's not fair either. Do you get what I'm saying?
That's a new form.
I think anybody who's bringing this up in 2019 are preying on ignorance. Because I really don't think this is a thing. This is not a thing. This is not a sustainable thing. I support it, like from a spiritual, emotional standpoint, and I believe, and I understand why we as black people think this is important, but just knowing this is not possible, I feel like you bringing it up is almost like to me it's pandering.
Oh shoot!
I'm sorry,
but I think if we do that,
and to me, the Democratic Party is kind of known for pandering a little bit sometimes.
That's an interesting. Wow,
because we just sat here. We all just tried.
We did.
Genetically, how do we figure that out? How do you quantify it? Like, how do you retroactively, and then what do you like? How do you like? I'm just.
How many generations will it go? Would be just our current generation?
You'd have to have a financial model to retroactively figure out the land, and then today, because like at the time that slavery happened, you know, what part of the United States really still was the United States? You know, like we didn't even own the entire.
Think about it, there was some more forest land back then.
But I mean, some of the structure today, the whole United States, it didn't even exist. You know, at the time, we kept buying more and more land.
We kept building. We built it.
What point do you start? Because if you start when slavery started, which is what, in the 1600s?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even have the whole land we have now. So why do you figure this out? It's not possible.
Yeah, it just...
Well, but you guys also have to understand that for like hundreds of years, people were slaves, right?
Yes.
And there's, you know, white people got a head start in America. They got a big head start. We understand. I think the best way I understood, I forget who explained slavery. I think it was D.L. Hughley, which was random, but he said that you have to understand why slavery was created. And basically what he was saying was it was a way for United States to build its country up after leaving breaking away from Britain, and they needed help building the country, and they figured that, you know, if we bring people to this country to do it for free, you know what I mean, we can build it faster.
That's
you know,
why I tell people,
and think about why capitalism works. Why is America number one? They had free labor for over hundreds of years,
and that's why
free labor.
And that's why I tell black people all the time, when black people are so quick to say, they say in my country, I'm from America, you know, I'm African.
Yeah.
No, we are, if not just as much, we are more entitled than Americans.
But we have nothing to claim. We have nothing to show for that. You have nothing.
But that's why we got
nothing to show for that. But you can only say my grandfather helped build this country, but it's like, yeah, but you didn't get anything for that.
Yeah, but
that's not fair. You're not like, what are we, the glorified interns?
Yeah, but if you look at after slavery was over, how we came together as a community so strong. I mean, Black Wall Street. I mean, we were showing people that we to me, the Black community is the most united when we want to be.
Correct.
And now we're no longer united. And like baby mama and baby daddy is normal now. And it's like back in the 50s and 60s, we were the strongest family unit of all the communities. How do we go from the strongest family unit of all communities to baby mama drama? It's because of the Democratic Party and their policies, welfare policy being one of them. So it's like I'm trying to wake black people up and say we need to come together again, because when we come together, we are the ones who create style, culture. You know, so much we do that people follow us and copy us. It's like, can we just come together and really get stuff done like we did back in the day?
I mean, that's nice and all, kumbaya over there. But I personally think that, you know, there needs to be some kind of storyline for people to see, because there are people today that are still disadvantaged because of, you know, decades and decades or hundreds of years of what happened, and they're still in environments where they're set back. And I think that's what is the problem, is that our elected officials, our government, we need to own that. And I think they need to somehow figure out which communities, which people today are still disadvantaged because of slavery, because of Jim Crow, whatever it may be, and how do we get them ahead? And you know, there's different institutions, whether it's the criminal justice system, whether it's education, and I think we've all been essentially talking about that and trying to get there, but I think this reparations is a much more like aggressive, like, way to just handle that. But I think ultimately, with all these other policies and other things we're talking about, we're acknowledging this disadvantage, which the elephant in the room is that it was slavery, or you know, the way things
but there's other cultures that got pretty bad treatment here in this country. I mean, Native Americans, to me, got worse than blacks did in this country.
Right. And they still haven't gotten.
But they got landed. That's what I was gonna say. It's a smaller community. You can tie it back. It's so much more.
I see what you're saying.
They got their land. They got certain things. Don't they get tax breaks? I think they don't pay taxes.
They don't. Aren't they sovereign?
And a lot of them are alcoholics because their life isn't that good.
Oh God. I'm not saying that.
My life you'd be an alcoholic too if this was your country and they threw you off your country. And then they put you.
Tears.
Yeah. Well,
Andrew Jackson, Democrat.
You would still.
To throw that in there real quick.
Yeah. You would. He's gonna keep throwing up.
So I'm not denying the justification or the validity. I'm just saying, like, realistically, I don't see it.
I agree with you.
Working out. So we have to maybe come up
maybe
with something.
maybe you've enlightened me today, because for you know, since everyone's like talking about reparations, I did kind of start feeling like, wait a minute, why does everybody keep saying like they're reparations? So my thing was like, oh, they're just going to say it, and then they're not going to really do it. But I think what you just said today kind of broke it into like reality, is like, this is another form of pandering. Yeah. Because there's no real way that we can quantify. Like, if you really ask them, I guess that's what our goal is, to get one of these candidates in here and really break down, like, how do you see yourself being able to provide reparations to the Black community and the people who are direct descendants of slavery, you know?
Exactly.
So, I mean, listen, this was our first podcast. I mean, I think we can go on, and we
can do this all day.
Yeah, we can do this all day. I mean, I love the energy here, and I think you know, we're gonna really have a really, really awesome time doing this. We're gonna end here today on this topic. And again, like, you know, follow us. My Instagram's Kerstyn, KERSTYNJ. You can follow me on Instagram. Maxine.
Maxine.outerbridge, OUTER bridge. That's on Instagram.
Okay. Conservative in New York. You can find me on Instagram with that title. Conserve in New York on Twitter. YouTube, you can find me Conservative in New York. And on my Facebook, you can find my fan page as Right is Right, and that's my last name, Right, W, and Right like right wing with an R at the end.
Perfect. All right, guys, thank you for listening, and we're out.
Adios.
Bye-bye.